Welcome to NightDocs. A few days ago, I released the 49-minute documentary, David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer. I was pretty overwhelmed with the response it received. I was a little worried before the release of what kind of reaction it would get because of how dark the subject matter was. I was obviously hopeful that it would have some impact, but there were a few things that really surprised me.
Hey guys, Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators and To Catch a Predator. As you know, I cover a lot of true crime, but I also watch a lot of it. There's something you need to check out, a new YouTube channel called NightDocs, especially a documentary on David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer. Very good, very compelling. So subscribe to NightDocs and give it a look. Remember, I'll be watching and listening, and I'll see you soon on the internet and TV.
Okay, maybe there might be a non-zero chance that I paid $50 to ask Chris Hansen to plug my YouTube channel.
Why don't you have a seat, please?
Anyway, my good friend the Unknown Observer asked me if he could play the video on a live stream to his fans, and I was really excited, and I told him of course, yes. So that night he played the documentary in its entirety, and then he had me on afterwards as a guest on his live stream to talk about the documentary. And I really had a lot to say about this case, and this turned into such a great conversation that I really wanted to share it with all of you as well, so that you can have a chance to hear what we talked about, because there were so many things that I didn't have a chance to discuss on the documentary itself, and I really wanted you guys to be able to hear the other things that I had to say that just wouldn't fit into the time frame that I was going for. Without further ado. Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, we got you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Dude, man, you're so amazing and awesome to me, man. I really can't thank you enough for
the no, dude.
Shout out and the exposure and all that stuff, man. This was such a tremendous amount of work, and it's just been so amazing. I've gotten such a crazy response for such a small channel like my own, and it's just been really, really cool.
I'm telling you, man, it ain't gonna be small for long. Trust me, you keep up work like this. And yeah, of course, it's no problem. I'm honored, man. It's my pleasure. I mean, every once in a while I'll see like a new channel start out that looks good, and I'm still a small channel, but I remember being at 3,000 subscribers and like reaching out to people and they just blow me off. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that kind of attitude on YouTube, and it drives me nuts. So I haven't really had that experience. I really haven't. I've had such a good experience. Like literally today, I was at work. Fucking Nexpo came to see me at work today. Yeah, which is amazing. I played the Chris Hansen endorsement a minute ago. That is huge, dude. That is huge. That's insane. I mean, it's yeah. There's a difference though, man. You probably didn't get a lot of that kind of attitude. Because your stuff came right out of the gate, super good, well produced, really nicely edited. I deleted the first 30 videos I did. Oh my gosh. Yeah, by the time I got to a point where I was like, okay, now I kind of figured out some editing stuff. I went back and watched a few, and I was like, yeah, this has got to go. Yeah. You know what's funny is I actually I deleted all of the videos that were on my channel previously before I rebranded it as NightDocs. Yeah. Well, I delisted them. And what's funny is when you delist all of your videos, it subtracts all the views from your channel. Oh. So if you look at my Social Blade right now, I'm negative 5 million views right now. What? Yeah. I had a couple of videos that I did here and there that were just garbage, whatever, but they kind of became unexpected sort of viral videos. There's one in particular that had 3 million views. It was nice. And so I delisted that one and all the other ones just because they didn't fit the theme of the channel. Yeah, and, exactly, man. Same story with mine. Seriously. Yeah. I had a video that is probably the one I'm the least proud of about the MH370 thing. And I was just kind of running with it and reading an article and buying into a lot of the stuff that I don't even believe anymore. But that video took off, got 1.3 million views. And now I'm like, I don't even like it anymore, but do I delete it? I don't want to lose all that. You know what I mean? Sure. So I just realized? Huh? You and I have kind of been friends for a little bit now, and this is actually, I think, the first time you and I have actually spoke Yeah. Well, yeah. Outside of text message. Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
That's just weird to me. That's kind of weird. Like, I actually said the same thing to Nexpo today. Like, he and I have been talking for quite a while. It's crazy. Nexpo, like, it's such a crazy small world. Nexpo and I got connected after I did the Hotel Zaza video, the Room 322 video,
Yeah.
because he and I are both from Houston, and we were later talking, found out not only do Nexpo and I both live in Houston,
You told
we live
me
in the
about
same
that.
part of town.
Yeah. You told me about that.
And
It's
not only do we live in
crazy.
the same part of town, he lives down the street from me.
Yeah. You told me about that too, which is nuts, man. Well, like, what are the
Yeah.
odds of that?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's just been really weird and surreal. But I mean, honestly, it's just been so crazy. Like, just how welcoming the rest of the YouTube community has been to just a little guy like me and everything. Like, it's kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted you to so I sent you something in Skype here. So if you want to pull up the FBI field office.
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
Now, if you want to zoom in to the parking lot, this is the FBI. This is the FBI lot in Albuquerque.
Hold on. You sent it on Skype or text? I don't see it on.
Well, I didn't send you like a link. I just said look up the.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to pull that up.
Type in FBI, FBI Albuquerque or something, and you'll find it. If you have trouble, I'll look up the address.
FBI near Albuquerque, New Mexico. Think we got it. Wow, it was actually kind of close. And we're looking for the toy box, right?
The toy box is in the FBI field office parking lot to this day.
And the guy, David Parker Ray, he died in like 2002, right?
Died in September of 2002. Now, one thing that I mentioned in the video is that the trial itself was absolutely insane. I could make an entire other video on just the trial.
And
it was
man,
ludicrous.
You should too.
It's right there. It's that center one right there.
Right here?
No, go up to your right a little bit here.
Okay. Wait. Well, there's a little bit of a delay.
Oh, right, yeah.
Next to this truck with the solar panels on top.
So back the original view that you had. It's right there. It's at the very bottom.
Right here?
Yeah, so it's that center trailer.
In the,
it's that
handicap?
It's the bottom trailer.
Okay, right here, I think.
Wait for the delay to pick up here. Yeah, that's it, though. The one I'm seeing right now. It's a few seconds behind, but that if you swing it around, you can definitely tell that is the trailer.
Oh yeah, the ventilation on top.
So it's the bottom trailer. It's the one at the very, very bottom.
Wait.
It's on the bottom bottom right hand corner of the entire parking lot.
I think the delay is gonna mess us up here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
No, man, it's not your fault. I think this is probably the right one. This is definitely a trailer, not like an RV. It's got like the ventilation on top. It's next to a bush.
That might be it. I am seeing the one you're looking at. I think it's the one below that one though. No, that is the right. Yeah, that is it.
Okay.
That is it. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
If you swing the camera around, you can actually see the rest of it, and you can kind of confirm where the door was, and it still has the air conditioning unit that's on the side there. But I mean, that's just surreal to me. In fact, I pulled it up on Street View as well, and yeah, it's the exact same one.
Yeah, dude, how do I swing the camera around? I don't use Google Earth at all.
I think you press Control while you're dragging the mouse.
I'm gonna mess this up.
It's like Control or Shift or Alt. I can't remember exactly.
There we go. Shift, yeah. Oh yeah, that's totally it, isn't it?
Yep. So I'm gonna send you a link.
Do you think all is that the air conditioning? Yeah. Right there, I think.
Yeah, the air conditioning unit is still on the side of it.
It even has the ladder going up to it. So do you think all that crazy garbage he had in there is still in there too? I mean,
so most of it is, yeah, almost all of it. In fact, there was the most recent footage I found was just a few years ago, and although most of it's in boxes inside,
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
the
okay.
gynecological chair is
Cataloged
still in
and
there.
yeah.
All of the pretty much everything is still in there. The gynecological chair is still in there, pretty much untouched. The I'm gonna send you a link
God, that
here.
is unbelievable, man.
So I'm sending you a link to part 2 of the Reddit post that I made on this. It's really,
nice.
really frustrating. It was really, really frustrating because I actually posted this to the Unresolved Mysteries subreddit, and it was up for about a day. It got 2,000 upvotes. It got like 4 gold awards, like 3 silvers.
Yeah.
I think it got like a platinum. And then the mods decided that since David Parker Ray was caught, it's no longer an unresolved mystery, and so they
Are you
removed the
kidding
posts.
me?
Yeah, it was really frustrating.
God, I can't imagine.
Yeah, like I mean the countless amount of victims that are still out there.
Right.
The fact that there are dozens and dozens of women that are out there alive today that were victims of David Parker Ray
Right.
that have no idea that they were victims.
Yeah.
They were drugged up and brainwashed and set loose in the world and are missing
time.
days,
Yeah.
sometimes months of their life that
Yeah.
they can't account for.
Well,
And-
because he used, what was it, sodium pentothal and phenobarbital.
Yep.
Yeah, those are, if for anyone who's listening, if you've ever been blackout drunk, I mean, I've never taken sodium pentothal, but isn't that the truth serum that's used by, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think.
I haven't looked into it a whole lot.
I'm pretty sure that's what they call the truth serum, but it has huge effects on your memory. So like, and as far as I know, this is like mainstream accepted. Actually, before we go into the Reddit, I just want to look that up real quick to make sure I'm not saying something completely wrong.
Well, I will say that I do need to add a little bit of a correction to the documentary that I did. I was told I think I called sodium pentothal and phenobarbital hallucinogenic drugs, and I was informed that I got that wrong. They're evidently barbiturates. The reason I had called them hallucinogenic drugs was just it was a false assumption that I had made. They are because what he would do is, like, if you take that combination of drugs evidently by themselves, it's not going to have the effect of the memory loss and all that kind of stuff that these victims suffered. It was a combination of those drugs and the fact that he used a lot of brainwashing methods, a lot of hypnosis. In fact, if you read the transcripts, which I really don't recommend.
Yeah. I'm going to have to put that off for a little while, but I will get to it for sure.
I will be honest, as much research as I did into this, and I did a lot of research.
Oh, I can tell, man. That's obvious. Yeah, I mean, you can't make a video like with that depth. Just
right.
And you told me, didn't you say? Sorry to cut you off, but didn't you say something that you basically watched and checked out everything available out there on this guy, and nobody went into it this deep? Yeah.
I watched every documentary that there is out there doing my preliminary research, and the reason I got those books was because after watching all these documentaries, I was like, this is just. Like this is as squeaky clean as you can make it for TV.
Exactly. Exactly.
And they are obviously skipping over some things.
Yeah,
and
some serious things.
I was trying to figure out what the heck happened, and I got to tell you, man, any of the other documentaries you watch out there, even on YouTube, they do not go into nearly like even mine, man. Like. Mine barely scratches the surface. You could make a whole HBO miniseries on this guy and probably still not get through everything. But I had the goal at the beginning where I wanted to put out as much detail as possible, but really there was so much stuff that I just was unwilling to get into.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one thing in particular. I'm not gonna get too graphic here, but. There was one thing in particular that I read during my research in one of the books that affected me so deeply that I legit had some mental health, sort of almost like a breakdown, really. Like I couldn't sleep that night. I was just so horrified with what I read. And just the combination of just being so deeply engaged in the research and all of this, like it got to a point where I almost felt like I kind of had a, like, I know it really wasn't, but it almost felt like I had this firsthand account of the events that happened, and I kind of got a little too deeply invested into it.
Right, dude. Yeah, you gotta, I have never gotten into anything this dark. It doesn't surprise me at all that it affected you, though. But, I mean, even, some of the stuff that I get to uncover when you get into stories of, like, missing children and stuff,
right,
and, like,
right.
bodies being found and all these, like, really horrible things, that it absolutely affects you. I think I'm completely different just from the stuff I've gotten into, and nothing is as far as torture goes, nothing that I've found goes anywhere close to this. And I'm convinced like sadistic torture is like the last tier, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
like,
well, he's an incredibly rare breed of criminal. In fact, one of the documentaries I was watching, they were interviewing one of the behavioral psychologists with the FBI, and she describes how he is an incredibly rare type of criminal called a sexual sadist.
Yeah.
Where,
like I think Ted Bundy, right?
So even Ted Bundy,
or BTK, maybe it was one of them.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's a very extremely rare classification. I mean, you hear the term sexual sadist, and it might sound like something you've heard before, but it is so rare that somebody can get off to
literal torture
and pain of somebody else. This guy really, I mean, you hear about the stuff that went on during the Dark Ages, and I'll bet the stuff that he was doing would probably have made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, man, that's a pretty accurate way to sum it up. I mean, think
you probably saw like the spiked dildo and stuff. I mean, that's just barely scratching it, man.
Yeah. So I know you're not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or anything, but you've done more research into this more than me. Do you think that there's anything that might link the abuse as a young person, or is it just kind of something you're born with? You get unlucky.
Somebody in the comments during the Reddit post got pretty indignant and said, like, oh, hey, my grandfather was a World War II vet, and they were really strict with us, and spanked us and all that kind of stuff, and we never turned out and murdered anyone. And it's really different. I didn't feel like that particular comment was very fair to the situation, because David Parker Ray suffered a lot of actual
like severe beatings,
abuse,
and psychological.
And especially neglect. Neglect is one of those things that when kids go through actual neglect, it really does have a profound impact on them. And so the question that I pose people that have the stance of, people are going to turn out the way they are regardless of whatever, the question that I pose to them is, okay, so what kind of effect does having a loving upbringing have on a child then, if they're just going to turn out the way they're going to turn out regardless?
Right.
Like, I
Good
mean,
point.
why do we push so hard to make sure kids are raised in a healthy environment, all that kind of stuff? Because I really do believe it does have an effect. I don't believe that it alleviates people of responsibility and accountability for the choices that they make.
Right.
But it definitely can be a way to at least diagnose some of the root causes of why their brain is wired the way that it is.
Or, yeah, I agree with that completely. And also, I don't know if you ever watched that show, I forget what it's called right now, on Netflix, about kind of or it's based on like the formation of the FBI behavior, Mindhunter.
Yeah, Mindhunter.
Yeah. It kind of seems at the very least that these kind of conditions through childhood, at the very least, are worth looking into when you're, a part of this kind of unit that is one of your main goals is to understand how you can catch these people before they get so bad. You know what I'm saying?
Why they put together a profile as soon as they've got a target. They put together a behavioral profile on them.
Right. And it's
based off of years of experience.
Right. And like, as evidentiary proofs, you know, like you know it works. It's like some of these serial killers they caught after the fact, it turns out their profile was like dead on accurate. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he was single, he was between 25 and 32, he lived in a basement under his mom's house. Like, they figure out these details through their profile that they're, you know, not basing on guesswork, they're basing in this on, you know, information that they've gathered throughout all of the work they've done. You know what I mean? So this kind of stuff,
you can't discount that.
Yeah, exactly. I shared a link to this Reddit thing. What do you say? You know, I didn't really have any questions prepared since we decided to do this.
So the reason I wanted to link this particular one, the reason I linked part 2 instead of part 1, if you scroll to the very bottom of the post, there's a section that I put on there with some additional information that I didn't go through in the video. And I'm going to scroll to it myself, actually, cool. So that I can kind of follow along. I think you're streaming at like 480p.
Yeah, it's really low.
Let me just refresh my own page here, get to part 2. Okay, here we go. So at the very bottom, there's a section after thank yous. There's a section called additional info.
Yep.
So this is absolutely non-exhaustive. But one thing I tried to do as I was doing my research is try and keep count of potential victims that were out there. And I want to talk about a few of them here. So the torture victims up there, we've got Cynthia, Virgil, we got Angelica Montano, got Kelly Van Cleve. And if you actually look there, there's actually a couple of photos that are still linked in there. This whole post, both part 1 and part 2, I have a whole lot of links to pictures and reference material and all sorts of stuff in there for you to really dig through. I really took a lot of time with this post. What I did was I took the script to the documentary, and I copied and pasted it. But what I did is I reformatted all of it so that it's for readability and so that I can link sources in the text of the post.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And so if you look through these, so we've got the torture victims right there, and we got the possible murder victims here. Now, it's really crazy to me, some of these. So we talked about it a little bit in the documentary about how his first victim was around the age of 13 or 14, where he allegedly tied up a woman to a tree, tortured her to death. I don't know much detail.
Real quick, he was 13 or 14, or the victim was?
He was.
Whoa.
Yep. He
Jesus
was a very young
Christ.
teenager. Yeah, he was a very young teenager. In fact, a 2011 interview with Cindy Hendy that was on the Discovery Channel, I referenced it briefly in the documentary. She mentioned that so the police believe that he is guilty of at least 30 murders. But according to this 2011 interview that Cindy Hendy did, she was told by David Parker Ray that when she was with him, that he told her that he had murdered at least one person per year for the previous 40 years of his life, and he was 59 at the time.
Yeah.
So that's at least 40 if you just factor in, like, it would be literally one per year, but she said it was at least one per year.
Yeah.
And so the estimate has to be at least 40, and a lot of people put it in upwards of 60. So really the number that I put on him is probably between 40 and 60 people.
Right. I was just going to say, even the Wikipedia page says suspected by the police to have murdered up to as many as 60. Right. So yeah, man, between 40 and 60, that is unreal. And he's not the household name that you have with, you know, John Wayne Gacy or BTK, Dennis Rader.
Well, here's the reason why I think. You get serial killers like Ted Bundy.
Right.
And I'm going to sound really crass here, and I'm not trying to glorify
you're good, man.
Anybody, any of these horrible people. But with some serial killers, especially ones like, Ted Bundy, who is arguably the most famous serial killer, there's kind of a sexiness factor to it. Because, and it's pretty well documented about how women just fell over themselves for him. How this supposedly attractive guy who had a really charming personality, who was secretly murdering women and things like that. The thing is, with most serial killer cases, it's easy to stomach, relatively speaking, because not only are you as a person separated from the case, but most
and
of the
details
in a lot
and
of
the
these,
reality.
They didn't suffer for very long. I mean, they may have suffered, but not to the lengths that
3 months, dude. 3 months.
Right.
Can anyone out there even fathom that? You're alive for up to 90 days being tortured. And read through, you showed some text on screen about some of the actual documentation. So I kind of, whenever I watched it, as I said, I watched the first half, and then whenever you and I texted, I wanted to finish the last half for the first time on the stream. But when I watched the first half, I paused on the text that you showed to read it, and I kind of tried to read as fast as I could during that weird instruction manual that he put together on. And this is bad torture. I mean, it was the guy found with screws in his stomach. This is, like you said, this would make people in the medieval era uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the people who invented like the rack and stuff. You know what I mean? The brazen bull. Yeah.
Or brazen bull. Yeah, I think you're right. But yeah, there's some crazy stuff. But I mean, even with those, I mean, they would torture him for like, a day, which is horrible.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But like 90 days? I mean, God, like...
Yeah.
And the thing to wake up and not remember it, but something unbelievably horrific happened to you. What was the case? Was it Cynthia Virgil was she the one who escaped and no one believed her and her husband left her and all that?
Actually, the one that sort of escaped was Angela Montano. So Angela Montano, I didn't go into her story in the video. I wish I'd had time.
Yeah.
But her story is pretty fascinating because she actually kind of charmed them over, and they released her. And somehow she got out of the whole thing without getting drugged and brainwashed and all that stuff, but they did still leave her on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And she got left off on the side of the road. Long story short, that's her. She actually played along for the whole thing and was an enthusiastic participant. Basically tried to
placate him.
On her best
behavior.
Yeah, exactly. This wasn't a case of Stockholm syndrome at all. This was her trying to survive.
Yeah, she was smart and she knew that they were. Yeah.
Right.
She knew what they wanted, so she tried to give it to them, but live through it. Right.
Yeah. And what's interesting is David Parker Ray, according to her, David Parker Ray really took a liking to her and said something along the lines of, if I had known you were so nice, I probably wouldn't have taken you in the first place. And
my God.
They dropped her off, and as soon as she was free, she just started sprinting down the highway, just trying to flag down anybody. And she gets picked up by an undercover cop.
Whoa.
And she gets into the car and she's sobbing and she's chain smoking and she's, this guy, he hasn't revealed that he's an undercover cop, but he's asking her, what's wrong. And she tells him about the entire ordeal that she went through. And she was also only about 3 days.
Which is an insane amount of time to be tortured.
I know, I say only, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, and there's something about the instructions that I want to get to in a second too, but I want to finish this story.
Yeah.
What's crazy is she talked to this undercover cop and told him about everything that she went through, and the undercover cop was pretty skeptical. I mean, she didn't seem very credible. I mean, and it tells us a lot about what we are as a society that she was a prostitute. That was like one of his favorite kinds of victims.
A lot of these kind of creeps are,
No. Right. He'd pick up sex workers and stuff, and the advantage to him is that credibility of those kind of witnesses are usually called into question. And so she's talking about what she's gone through, and this guy's pretty skeptical, and he recommends, you ought to file a police report. He was like, I can take you to the station right now, and you can file a police report. And she was too scared to. She just was far too scared to do it. And so she never did. And what happened was he finally kind of just got sick of her, and he dropped her off at a gas station or whatever. He's like, you know what, you can just find your own way, because he didn't believe her.
What?
He didn't believe her. And honestly, I hate to say it.
Take
a step back.
It's an insane story to tell.
It is insane. I mean, think of this, like somebody telling you they've been kept in a nearby town for 3 days
in a trailer,
$100,000 custom built torture chamber
with a gynecological chair in the middle.
It's too crazy to believe.
Right. And
who's gonna believe that?
And also, as horrible as it is to say, it's a prostitute telling you this, which, immediately raises questions of credibility just from a law enforcement perspective. You know what I mean? Law enforcement might be being told outrageous stories all the time that end up not to be true from sex workers. And they're automatically going to assume that sex workers are on drugs. You know what I mean? So that just further diminishes credibility.
And I believe she was too.
Right.
But you're right. I mean, it hurts their credibility. And look, I am not victim blaming here at all.
Of course, me either, man. That should be super clear.
This is absolutely abhorrent behavior, and she should have been believed.
I agree.
I'm just trying to create the frame of reference
of what is going on. Yeah, if this guy believed her, I feel like he would have at least, maybe called for backup and went to look at it or something,
And I can't remember, I'd have to go back and look at my notes again, but I can't remember how she finally came forward. But what's really tragic about the story of her is that when it came time for the trial, so Cindy Hendy was found guilty, and one of the victims in her trial was this Angelo Montano, and and unfortunately she died of pneumonia.
I see it on your post. 2000.
I think she died either right as the trial was beginning or shortly before. I think it was shortly before. I'd have to go back and check again, but she never got to testify.
When I was just gonna say, when was he apprehended? If he died in 2002.
This was so I got the date wrong in the intro where I said it was March 12th, 1999 when Cynthia Virgil escaped. It was, I think, March 20th, something like that.
Well,
20th,
it's not a big deal. Yeah.
It's not too far off, but one thing I'll let you know is when I first started looking into this, that intro with the artwork and all that stuff, that was the very first thing that I did, because as soon as I started looking into this case, I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to do at the beginning and how I wanted to start this story. And I just thought the story of her escape was so insane and so crazy. That's the stuff of thriller, like psychological thriller movies and stuff.
Absolutely.
And so I had a very clear picture in my head of what I wanted that to be like, and so I kind of rushed it, and because I hadn't really done all of my research yet, other than a lot of preliminary stuff, I got a couple of things wrong, like for example the fact that it was actually in the daytime, it wasn't at night. Also, David Parker Ray lived in it was a moderately populated community of mobile homes and trailers and stuff like that. So what's crazy is she escaped at actually precisely 3:15 p.m. on March 20th, I believe. She ran straight out of the house naked, had the choker collar on, dragging a 5-foot chain, and she's running down the street screaming hysterically, covered in blood. At one point, a car actually drives by her and slows down, like, what the hell's going on? This is Elephant Butte. Nothing ever happens here.
Yeah.
And she runs to the car, and she's trying to get in the car. She's obviously in distress, but I mean, imagine, like, this crazed,
hysterical,
covered in
naked
blood
woman
and
covered in blood
chains. Yeah.
is trying to get in your car. They took off in terror. They straight up drove away. I mean, what do you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Hindsight is one of those things where, I would have helped her, but like, man, I would like to think that I personally would have been willing to help out or whatever, but
everybody wants to think they would, but
not knowing anything that's going on and that kind of situation presents itself, man, I don't know how I would react. But
yeah,
what's crazy is it is an absolute miracle that she escaped, not only for the circumstances, but if you look at the victim list here, if you go down on the one of the victims here, it says a little girl named Angela. Cindy allegedly told Cynthia Virgil during her captivity shortly before they abducted her in 1999. So that there was a little girl named Angela, and then there's another victim. Oh, did I not put it on here? So there was their next victim. It's under the torture victims at the top there. They had plans to, after they were done with Cynthia, they were going to abduct a 10-year-old girl.
Christ.
And just all of this horrible stuff that we've been talking about, imagine a 10-year-old girl going through that.
Yeah. Well, it's unimaginable, really. You know what I mean?
Like, so sickening. It is like I'm I'm sweating. Like, I'm literally sweating right now.
Yeah. I think everybody paying attention is, you know what I mean?
This is one of those cases that just fills me with so much, like, I'm
right.
Dude, I'm not kidding. Like, I'm getting a little teary-eyed right now. Like, I mean, it fills me with so much fury.
This reminds me of the, and not to change subjects, but just real quick, the guy, I forget his name right now. I want to say it's Peter something. Looking him up right now. I'll have him just a second. Peter Scully. Are you familiar with that guy? He made
I don't think so.
He made a few torture films, I believe, in the Philippines. He was the Australian child rapist.
I am vaguely familiar with the name now that you say it, but those two details are pretty much the only thing I know about him, though.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it was toddlers, and I don't want to get like that.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
There's screwdrivers involved. It was unbelievably.
The dark web. So, I don't want to get too far into that, man. Like,
no way.
What I will say is, I was telling a few people, I actually just about threw this whole documentary in the trash about halfway through.
I'm not surprised, man.
Like, I got about halfway through, and the abhorrent nature of everything that I was reading, I just didn't want to touch it.
You mean
anymore.
the details of the actual crime? Yeah.
Mostly the stuff that I didn't include.
Right. Or I'm sure you wouldn't have been allowed to include anyways. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
As far as YouTube policies.
All I can really tell you is I was unwilling.
Right.
I mentioned it a couple times in the video that, like, there's just some things that I'm unwilling to hear myself say out loud.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Exactly. Even if you're just saying it alone by yourself in a room with no one there, you just don't want to say it. Right, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a particular night, I have a very clear memory. This was a couple weeks ago. There was something I read about this that I was having a tough time sleeping. I really was. And you and I both, I mean, we're talking about, we consume a lot of true crime stuff.
Right.
But this one is so beyond the pale.
I agree 100%. That's what I was kind of saying. I don't know if you're here when I first started the live chat, like the first 2 minutes. But that's what I was saying is, like, I have seen pretty much everything there is out there on what I thought were, Jeffrey Dahmer and BTK and Ted Bundy and these people who everyone knows about. And the things they did were unbelievably horrific by themselves. You know what I mean? A lot of them sadistic, torture type of things. And that's why when I was halfway through, I asked you, like, man, can I finish this on the live stream? Because I've never even heard of this guy before. And I don't know how that's even possible. Like,
in fact, I think this was a case that I stumbled upon when I first started considering rebranding the channel into NightDocs, and I think I just did a search for worst serial killers ever, and somebody brought him up, and somebody called him the Toy Box Killer, and
yeah,
the Toy Box Killer. Honestly, I thought that sounded kind of catchy, and I wanted to find out more about it, and I understood that he had the custom built torture chamber that he built,
right.
And I was like, dude, that's crazy, man, that's nuts. This is going to be some insane content to make or whatever. So I was like, I kind of earmarked it, and I was like, I started looking into it. I made that intro, and then the more I looked into it, I was like, what have I done?
Immediately regret it. Yeah,
I was like, what have I done?
Yeah. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like almost impossible to stop. And
I'll tell you, the main reason why I kept going was not only because I had already put so much work into it, but, man, the girl that I worked with, the artist, Teresa Donhauser, was just the sweetest, most awesome person to work with and talk to. And she put so much effort into the artwork that went into the beginning. And she deserved to have her work seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because she worked so hard on it, and she was so great to work with. And I just really wanted to make sure that she was able to see the fruits of her effort. So those are kind of the two main reasons that I actually did go ahead and finish it. And I was a little nervous to release it because I was like, man, I don't know how people are going to receive this, because there's a reason that nobody else has really gone into as much detail as I'm going into.
Man, big
about
time.
This. I mean, you were saying, you got to sell this to network TVs. I was like, man, network TVs would never air that.
Well, I meant that sincerely, but I didn't mean this specific case.
Okay, right.
I just meant your work in general. But I will say, you did mention earlier, like, you could make an entire HBO series on this fucking psychopath.
Right.
Let's just say that 4 or 5 months from now, this video has like 20 million views, and it just out of the blue, HBO is like, hey, we want to hire you to work on this. Would you do it, or would you be like, I've had enough?
Kind of hard to turn down an opportunity like that.
Right.
I mean, that's very hypothetical,
Yeah, of course, man, of course. But
and I'll be honest, I've been talking a lot about how it really did kind of take a toll on my mental health.
That's why I was asking, yeah.
But I'm okay now. I think the act of, once I was finished with the actual research, I think I was okay.
Right, man.
And especially once I finally got it all edited and released and all that, you
can kind of wipe your hands a little bit. Yeah
it was really funny. So I was joking around with somebody in the comments on the actual either in the Reddit post or in the YouTube video, and they're like, wow, this really ruined my day, but this was so well done. I was like, well, the sociopath in me is I'm relieving myself of all of the pain and anguish that I suffered through all of this, and I'm passing it on to you.
Yeah, which is super accurate, Yeah, because that's where I am right now still after just watching it. You know what I mean?
So folks in the comments, I'm so sorry. I have not been looking at the comments at all. I've just been having fun talking to Kevin here. But Nikki's asking, what's the video called? It's called David Parker Ray, the Toy Box Killer. If you go onto my channel,
I'll share a link right now too.
It's 49 minutes long. This started off as a 15-minute video, what I envisioned as just kind of a 15-minute video, and it turned into much, much more. And I couldn't just make it a short video because there was just too much story to not cover. And I still feel like I only scratched the surface. I mean, there are entire victim stories that I didn't go over. The trial, man, that trial was insane. The testimony of Cynthia Virgil was nail biting white knuckle stuff. She gets on the stand and she just gets up there, and the prosecutor brings up the choker collar that she had to wear.
Oh God.
Slaps it on the table and asks her to identify it.
Probably still blood on it or something too, even, I would bet.
No, I don't think so, honestly.
No. Well, maybe not visible, but
no,
you know.
There's pictures of it out there too.
Okay.
I didn't find, I couldn't get a hold of any in time for the Reddit post or whatever, but they're out there. But the choker collar, it's put on the table in front of her, and she stands up, points at David, and screams, "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to me?" And screaming, and she hyperventilates and nearly passes out. And they call a recess, and she's taken out of the courtroom, and she's assisted by paramedics who have to calm her down and
dude,
make sure she's got enough oxygen, all that kind of stuff. I mean, she just having to relive what she went through. I mean, just those words. I found audio of that part too.
How did he react to that?
He
just
was
stone faced. Yeah.
What's really insane, that part, I do remember reading that he was pretty stone faced during that part, but during a lot of the trial he was smiling.
Man, in his mugshot he has a huge smile.
Right, and he's smiling while he's making eye contact with the victims who are testifying against him. And I mean, it's
what the hell,
psychopathic,
dude? Right.
sick stuff.
Like the first time he was apprehended, when they talked to him but didn't have any bodies or any like tangible evidence. I think you said in the video that wasn't he like gleefully happy to talk about and describe all these crimes he committed and all these horrible things he did. But
that was in 1986.
Imagine how many people could have been saved this literal hell on earth.
There was about 13 years between that FBI. I hesitate to really call it a confession.
Right.
I call it a near confession in the documentary because it's. I mean, he didn't say anything that like outright incriminated him, like, "Hey, I've been kidnapping people," but the manner of.
Like his descriptions or something.
Yeah, like what I gathered was just the amount of detail he went into of what he was into and what he liked. And his preferences were so deviant and far beyond the pale that it just. And
close to what was actually happening, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and I kind of censored it during the video, but I said that he even told them that it was hard for him to get off, to finish.
Right.
Unless he thought of murder.
Yeah, I think you did mention that, right?
I think I said it was difficult for him to be satisfied.
Okay, yeah.
I tried to choose my words pretty carefully.
Yeah, which is a smart move on YouTube these days.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I knew for sure this video was never going to get monetized.
Yeah, dude, zero chance.
But I still didn't want to get like
removed.
My main goal was to try and present the facts in a way to try and ease the listener into it as much as I could.
You did an amazing job at that, I would say too, man. The first 5 minutes or so, I was thinking to myself, okay, this is going to be another super creep serial killer, because you start with the background, his childhood, the area, and stuff. Yeah. And he's into it. It gets worse and worse. And then the reveal at the end with this insane lack of prison time for any of them is like
34 years between the four.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you this whole time, through all your research, is there anything to show that there were other people involved? Didn't he himself, or maybe it wasn't him, but somebody said that like people are paying to participate in this?
I have a lot of questions about who his contacts were in the underground bondage community.
He's selling these tapes to people. We know that. He was
not only selling tapes. I didn't go into this in the documentary, but he also he was. I didn't do a very good job of talking about this at all, but one of the one of the things about him is that he was an insanely skilled mechanic and craftsman.
Yeah.
He was quite ingenious with some of the devices that he came up with, and I use that term not in a glamorization way,
right,
but just as a description of just he was a highly skilled person with tools and welding and things like that. He made a lot of custom torture devices and bondage devices that he would sell to people as well.
Okay, so there's got to be a pretty long list of people who are involved.
Yeah. And I really got to wonder, like, I mean, he had these contacts, and I couldn't find any references to it, but there had to have been some sort of black book he had somewhere of people.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
And I literally just thought of that right now. Like, there has to be a black book of some sort that they were able to get a hold of. And another thing that I was thinking about the other day too, that tape that he played for people, I mean, that's the most that's one of the most famous things about this case is that 45-minute orientation tape that he played for people.
Right.
What a lot of people don't know is the very beginning of that tape, he has a disclaimer that says, you know, this is for adult entertainment purposes only, not to be taken seriously, blah, blah, blah.
Whoa.
And so it was almost like he was trying to cover his bases in case the police ever got a hold of the tape.
Yeah, to think it's like staged or something.
And you know, I almost wish I had given myself even more time to do some research on this, because what I would really like to do is try and reach out to the FBI and ask them about the actual physical condition of the tape, because I would be interested to know if that portion of the tape had less wear and tear on it than the rest of the tape.
Oh, that's a really good point.
Like, I wonder if he actually played that part of the tape for his victims.
Yeah, he's just skipping it and then going straight into the horrifying orientation.
Yep. And I gather that they did not get any kind of disclaimer like that. I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of what he's going
because,
for.
I mean, he specifically detailed that psychological torture was a huge part of it. You know, call him bitch and call him all these horrible names and laugh at them and all these humiliating things, you know, which is like a whole nother side to it. Not just physical torture, but all this other humiliation and psychological torture.
The brainwashing started immediately. The list of torture instructions makes that very clear, where he talks about how for at least the first 2 or 3 hours, that is kind of their boot camp into what they're about to experience.
Oh my God.
It was relentless, constant. It was probably the worst torture they went through, peaked at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He would electrocute them, and we all know how effective electroshock is in altering someone's mind.
Yeah, like electroshock, lobotomization, and is that what you mean? Or just like the physical torture aspects of it?
Well, it's a behavior modification
tool. Yeah, electroshock therapy, for like psychological patients and stuff.
So that is one use of it. And there is a humane and psychologically, what's the word?
Altering
accepted.
Or okay.
There's an accepted way of doing it,
right?
Where it's not meant to like inflict
pain, but it has a therapeutic, especially back in olden days. You know, well, not that long ago, like 30 years ago, that was still widely used. You know. It still is to this day, but not quite the same way that it was back then. I gather. I'm not an expert on that, so don't take. Yeah, me either. Yeah.
But I mean, it is still used today. But it's not an inhumane sort of thing. There's one specific part. I told myself I wasn't going to read any part of this, but there is one specific part of the transcript.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone through. I started to say it earlier. As much research as I went through, I have yet to actually read the whole transcript. I can't get through it.
I could never really blame you on that, dude. I mean, even the small parts that you mention are just too much. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that as a criticism at all. I just mean for anyone, especially someone who has never been exposed to any of this kind of stuff, it is like, whoa, what planet is this? You know, like, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
like, for someone who did all this research, which I imagine has to be, you know, hundreds of hours probably, or close to it, for them to not be able to even finish some of the transcripts says it all. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
that's how bad this really is.
So this part, I'm going to read this word for word out of the transcript.
All right.
And I think this is one part that, as abhorrent as it is, relatively speaking, this is probably one of the easier parts to stomach, in terms of just the effect that it can really have on you.
Gotcha.
So he's talking about the electric shock methods that he's going to be using. So it starts here. Okay, let's talk about your training, the rules and punishment. Here, you are a slave, and discipline is extremely strict. You're going to be given a set of rules, things you can and cannot do, and you will learn to comply, because each time you violate a rule, you will be punished. As soon as each rule is told to you, it will become law as far as you're concerned. And you know what's going to happen every time you F up. We'll use a couple of methods of punishment. A whip is an excellent training aid. So is an electroshock machine. Anytime you get out of line, one or both will be used on your body, and I assure you it will not be pleasant. There is not many rules, and they're very easy to remember. But you're gonna make mistakes. Every slave does. I don't like repeat offenders. It gets me very upset. During the first few hours, the first time you violate a certain rule, tape recording skips here. This is a teaching process. The second time you violate the same rule, you'll be lightly punished. And the third time you violate it, it's going to be full punishment. After the first day, we won't cut you any slack at all. We will expect total obedience. Now let's start this off right. You are a slave. You don't realize it yet, but you will eventually. I'm your master, and the lady is your mistress. You will be totally docile. You will be very quiet, and you'll speak only when spoken to. Never initiate conversation. Keep your mouth shut. Anytime you are spoken to, you will be required to respond, and it will be with the proper speech. Remember that we are in the dungeon game, and as long as you are here, it's the only game in town. Anytime that you are asked a question where a yes or no answer is required, you will respond by saying, yes, master, no, mistress, no, master, etc. You will show proper respect. Having to use the word master or mistress may sound funny, petty, or vain to you, but that's all right. If you choose not to do it, you can laugh while you're being whipped, or when your body is convulsing under the electroshock machine. You will respond to commands without protest or resistance. Do exactly as you're told. Nothing else. Remember that you are here as a slave, and failure to respond to a command will definitely get you in trouble. If I decide to R-word you in your P-word, or where the other one, don't resist or struggle. When I tell you to spread your legs or pull them back, you say yes, master, and obey the command, because to do anything less will get you beaten. And then there's some other stuff that I'm not going to read, but I really apologize. I thought this was the right part, but it kind of gets close to what I was going for there. But the gist of it is that he would reinforce commands and behaviors with electric shocks,
which is by definition brainwashing.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And the way he would also do that is he straight up told him, I'm not going to do it to torture you. It's going to correct behavior. And it would be a painful shock. But what happens in electroshock therapy or any kind of electro treatment like that, it literally alters the way your brain is wired.
Yeah.
So the effects of his selfish depravity was lifelong for these people. Of
course, because, I mean, let's face it, there's no way to recover from that. No way that we know of yet. And then you add in the constant drugging, You know,
Yep.
these very.
It wasn't constant. Let me clarify
Okay,
that.
okay.
The drugging. I mean, they may have been. They may have had some drugs during the time, but the specifically the sodium pentothal and the phenobarbital was administered at the end as part of
Oh,
the
to just wipe them out, to wipe out their
basically.
memory.
So that because I'd have to go back in my notes again, but I think I remember reading something along the lines of that he didn't want them drugged up or under the influence of anything
Because he wanted him to experience all of it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine this is on planet Earth that this stuff was happening.
Yeah.
You know, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. So.
Just real quick, have you looked into Leonard Lake? And I think the guy's name is Charles N. It's spelled Charles N.G. He was, I believe, a Chinese national.
I have not.
The two serial killers, there is a lot of similarities there, man. Same thing with kidnapping, custom-built torture chamber. I don't know that they played a tape, but they did make recordings, and they had a list of instructions posted on the wall, in the small room that they kept the people in, referred to them as slaves, same type of weird bondage, like horrific, unbelievable torture.
Well,
so many of these like same earmarks.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm gonna give it a pass because.
Yeah, or at least skip it for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I told quite a few people right before I released this video. I was like, I'm gonna be taking a break from serial killers for quite a while.
Oh, absolutely, man.
This.
I'm gonna take a break. I didn't even do the research or make the video.
Yeah. The next on my Patreon page, I just released a list of all the video topics that I have planned. Got about
nice
topics.
Nice.
And none of them are true crime. Well, there's one involving there's one involving a kidnapping and a death under. It involves a death under some really mysterious circumstances, possibly involving a police cover-up. That's about as close to like true crime stuff as I want to get for now, and that one's not going to be for quite a while. The next stuff I'm going to be doing is a lot more lighthearted. I'm going to work on actually a video on the Erota fiasco next, because I had a pretty unique perspective on that a lot of the other YouTubers that are covering it didn't have. But the next stuff that I'm going to be doing is going to be a lot more lighthearted. It's definitely still going to be mysteries, and there's definitely still going to be some dark subject matter and all that. Because I mean, that's just what I do. But it's stuff that's this heavy.
It takes a lot out of you, man.
It does.
And I think you have the exact correct plan on that. If when you make a bunch of YouTube videos, you gotta mix it up, because otherwise you'll get people who expect that for every video. You know what I mean? Like, to an extent, people are like, oh, well, but if you mix it up then and it's not consistently the same thing in a row, then people aren't so surprised when the next one isn't. So I think that's like the exact right plan. It just, at least from what I've, gone through.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here, actually.
Yeah.
So, somebody actually commented on one of my videos and said basically word for word what I've actually already got planned. This is not something I'm going to do for a little while anyway. I want to wait for the channel to get a little bit bigger. I'm trying to stay kind of on brand, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But I'm going to start another series on this channel called NightDocs.
Oh, nice.
And NightDocs, NightDocs is about all the unsettling and macabre and mysterious stuff that is on the internet and society. NightDocs is going to be the polar opposite, where it's just the absolute best feel-good type of analysis.
That is awesome.
I've actually already got the first video in mind that I want to do for it. It's going to be a little while before I ever do it, but I'm really excited about the potential for doing NightDocs. It's just, if I do it right now, it's going to be a little confusing for the small audience that I have, I think. So I'm going to wait a little while before I do that. But
yeah,
really excited about the potential for doing that someday. Because there's a lot of people that that watch my videos and they're like, great, I need to go get some eye bleach now. And
yeah, right, exactly.
And so I'd like them to be able to kind of have at least some of that on my channel once in a while. I mean, and NightDocs isn't going to be like an all the time thing. It's going to be just an occasional sort of thing. But I mean, I'm really excited about the potential for doing that, because I'm kind of an emotional guy. I really like feel good stuff. I really like
Yeah, man. I think everybody does.
I like experiencing all the range of emotions and stuff, not just the dark stuff. I mean, it's all fun.
Oh, of course, man. And it's super good to get that every once in a while, too, you know. I mean, I don't do videos on it, but that's what I consume in my free time, you know. Like, people ask me, like, oh, have you seen this or have you seen that? And I'm like, no, man. If I'm not making a video, I'm watching, like, comedies and stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
hey, Nikki sent. Oh, you saw it there, Nikki Pirate. You're great. Make sure you guys support our guy here, man. He does so much hard work.
oh, I appreciate it, man.
I mean, this whole YouTube thing, man. I'm so new at all this and everything. It's such a weird world to get into.
Oh, you got it, man. Doing unbelievable so far. Got an endorsement from Chris Hansen. Actually, I want to play that again real quick because we got a lot of people on now who weren't here earlier. Let me pull it up real quick.
Sure.
Black Skull also says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how fucked up is this? I mean, is that
that's a 15.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's off the charts.
15, man. Like I don't put that lightly.
No, yeah. I mean, I haven't even done the research into it, but just based on that video, it is off any chart. People who are familiar with the household names like Gacy or Dahmer or Dennis Rader, BTK, all of these things,
right.
Like, this is exponentially worse. This is.
You know what's crazy? The part where the FBI agent committed suicide in the documentary.
Yep.
I had actually, when I first started looking into this, I started seeing people talk about it online, and I was like, "There's no way that's true." Like, I mean, I really figured it had to be an urban legend because I was Googling around. I wasn't finding any references on it, and then I read the books. And these two books were independently made around the same time, two completely different authors, and they both told the story of this, and they named her. Her name was Patty Rust. And I got the name, and I started Googling around, and sure enough, Patty Rust. That was one of the saddest things for me, is finding out that part was true. I was really hoping that was an urban legend.
It's just another one of those details that is just so unbelievable. And
Nobody talks about it.
And it's just, that's such a, that seems like it comes out of a scene from a poorly written movie. It's so unbelievable. You know, an FBI agent who is investigating the thing, she did all the crime scene sketches, right? And was so haunted by it, literally committed suicide over it. She couldn't get it out of her head. You know what I mean? Like,
and to keep this balanced and fair, I'll let you know what the FBI denied that it had anything to do with the case she was working on, but the timing,
and
like, she spent 5 days in the toy box sketching all of that
alone.
Surrounded by all of the stuff that happened to other women.
As a woman too, yeah.
As a woman.
Yeah, which is, and of course, just for political reasons, they're not going to admit, even if they knew for a fact that was the reason. They're not gonna. Right.
You can't.
It would be so much bad publicity. You know what I mean?
So she spent 5 days. I don't gather that there was any time between the 5 days she turned in her assignment. She was let off. They wanted her to take care of herself. I mean, they did care about her.
Yeah.
They wanted to make sure she was okay, and they were like, go home to your family in El Paso. We've got this. Take a break. We know what we put you through. She flew home, and it was that night. Night. It was right before midnight, the night she returned home from Elephant Butte.
Yeah, I mean, the timing of that, what else could it possibly have been, unless...
There couldn't have been anything else. I mean, you can say that she had a life full of depression and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the timing is
true, but that had to have been a trigger.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is at the very least, that was the straw that, that broke the camel's back. At the very least. If not, the first straw piled on.
That was watching the videos with her right before she did the sketches vomited on the ground outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he couldn't handle it either. I mean, she wasn't the only one
this is like a seasoned investigator we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like a guy who
People
probably
that look
sees
into this stuff.
Exactly, and are no stranger to horrific violent crime. One vomits, the other one commits suicide after finishing the assignment. You know, just speculating, obviously no one knows what was going on with her at the time or what she's thinking about. But just the thought that I have is that she just forced herself to finish the assignment because she knew how important it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And so who knows how far
She's a good soldier.
Yeah, how far into it did she get before she decided that she was going to take her own life at the end, but she just wanted to finish first. You know what I mean? Like, it's a horrifying thing to think about.
It's unbelievable.
Someone asked earlier, did you try to contact any of the people still alive that are involved? You mentioned one of the guys is active on social media.
My gosh, hold on.
All right,
second. I'm gonna just answer that and say no.
Okay.
But when I send you this link in a second, Kevin, you're gonna understand why I say F no.
Yeah. All right.
Is it still there? Let me look in my notes because I had a direct link to it in my notes. There's a you know what? I might have deleted it. I hope not. I'll just come right out and say it. I was looking into people. Hope I found it. Oh God. All right, I'm gonna send you a link here, Kevin.
All right.
And you can choose. I wanted to blast this all over the documentary, but I was advised by people that it probably wasn't a good idea.
Right.
I want you to take a look at that. I want you to take a look at that link, and you probably don't want to show it on the live stream.
Okay.
But you're more than welcome to describe what you're seeing.
Oh, you know what, man? I don't have a Facebook account. I got kicked off Facebook years ago. I'm not sure that it's going to let me open any of his photos or anything.
Well, you can still. I mean, he's got his profile locked up pretty tight. So this is the Facebook profile of Roy
Yancy. Yeah.
Roy Yancy is free, walking this earth, living back in Truth or Consequences.
Murdered at least 2 people.
At least 2 people, allegedly. I have to.
Yeah, allegedly. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, he confessed to 1, and I am deeply skeptical of any accounts that say he did not have some part in the murder of Kenneth Lane. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to look yourselves, I mean, I can't stop you, but I mean, if you look up Roy Yancy living in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico, that's him. He's got this shit-eating grin on his face, and he's just
even his profile picture is disgusting, dude. Like,
just the most punchable face you can ever.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely.
Just the most punchable face.
Yeah. Or crowbarable face, you know what I mean?
Right. I just, this guy, man, he just makes my skin crawl. The fact that he's walking free after what he did.
David Parker Ray, absolutely, man. That mugshot of his, I will show that really quick. This face he has in his mugshot is like, what is wrong with you, man? Look at this face this guy's making. I mean,
are you showing it on the stream right now?
It's just, what is going on with these people? It's like hard to imagine that a human being would be capable of even thinking about this stuff, let alone committing it to the levels that they took it to. It's just unfathomable. Like, just, I don't think, normal people will ever understand this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the face.
Walrus mustache.
Yeah. And that's got to be a smile under there, right? I mean, it's hard to be sure, but I mean, there's.
I think that might have been the mugshot they took the day they arrested him too. I don't know for sure, but I.
Well,
think
it looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, because it's before he kind of trimmed up a bit and started looking ready for court.
Is that him in court? I think right there.
Moises Carranza. I hope I said that right. If you're asking about Roy Yancy, his last name is spelled Yancy.
No, while I have this open, I'm just going to show a few horrifying pictures of the toy box. Because it looks like we have a lot of people on now who missed the stream.
Can I ask you a favor? Is it okay if I'd actually really like to possibly download this and maybe re-upload at least this last part of the live stream, just because this has kind of made a really great sort of almost like a podcast, sort of a retrospective on just the process and the behind the scenes on making this and everything. This is honestly the most detail I've gone into with anybody on what went into making this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Of course. I'll, I leave the streams up for, these late night live streams. I leave them up for, 2 or 3 days, but I always put them as an unlisted video on the Reddit, but I'll send you a direct link. You should be able to download it, no problem. Then you can just edit out whatever. You do whatever you want with it, man. Totally cool with it.
Yeah. Herbware, man, thank you for stopping by, man.
I'm trying to find some... God, these photos. Just look at this stuff, you guys.
Yeah, Pervware is one of my early patron supporters now, actually. I don't have a ton of them right now because I'm, pretty little, but, so I really appreciate your Pervware.
Yeah, everybody needs to be showing NightDocs some love. I mean, for anyone who missed the documentary, it is nothing short of mind-blowing. I've never seen anything like it anywhere else, including mainstream multi-million-dollar budget productions. I mean, trust me, you're missing out if you don't watch it. And actually, while on the subject, I want to play this Chris Hansen thing again real quick. If you missed this earlier and you need an endorsement to check out NightDocs and specifically this video, watch this.
Hey guys, Chris Hansen here of Hansen vs. Predators and To Catch a Predator. As you know, I cover a lot of true crime, but I also watch a lot of it. There's something you need to check out, a new YouTube channel called NightDocs, especially a documentary on David Parker Ray, the toy box killer. Very good, very compelling. So subscribe to NightDocs and give it a look. Remember, I'll be watching and listening, and I'll see you soon on the internet and TV.
God, that guy.
Hey guys,
Chris Hansen is, man.
Chris Hansen, man.
The man, the pedo hunter.
It's really tragic what's happened to Chris Hansen lately, man. He's gone through some rough years lately.
Yeah. Well,
I'm whatever he's done, man. I know he's had kind of a sketchy couple of years and everything, but I'm still a fan of him, man. He's done a lot of good.
Me too. And I'm firmly sticking to the belief that he's done way more good than harm. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody makes mistakes. I know there's a lot of things I'm not proud of.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much every human.
Sure.
But how did you come by that endorsement? I mean, did it just happen out of the blue and surprise
That's
you?
why I was laughing at the beginning. So there's a site called Cameo where you can actually hire celebrities to just do shout out videos for you.
No way.
You can hire Gilbert Gottfried for $150 and he'll tell your grandma happy birthday.
No way.
Yeah, and I was actually specifically I discovered it today.
Yeah.
Evidently, it's pretty well known. I'd only heard of it today, but I was like, man, I wonder. I was specifically hoping Chris Hansen was on there. I was like, I want Chris Hansen to do a plug for my YouTube channel, and I asked him to do the plug, and he literally, I placed the order. I paid him $50. Literally within 45 minutes, I had that video in my inbox.
Yeah. Dude,
the guy is like a champ. He was right on it. And he's he did such a cool job with it too. It was
it's perfect, dude. I saw that you left a tweet explaining that. I totally thought you were joking because you said something like best $45 I ever spent or something like that.
No,
I totally thought you were saying that. God, that's incredible, man. That's awesome. I'm looking into that because I could use a couple of those.
Right?
I don't know who I would get, but yeah, I'm looking into that.
I figured it would just be kind of fun to tweet out, but subscribe to NightDocs. Chris Hansen demands it.
And it's also cool that you put the thing in there, best $50 I ever spent. Yeah. It's amazing.
I didn't want people to who knew about Cameo to think I was trying to pull a fast one on anybody or anything.
Right.
like, I mean, I guess, a lot of celebrity endorsements are paid, right? So, I mean, I guess it's not too different from.
Yeah, that's 100% true, man. That's a really good point. I mean, almost any celebrity endorsement you've seen, they've gotten paid in some way. You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
I'm just showing.
And if I can, you know what? I feel pretty good. If I was able to financially support Chris Hansen of all people.
Yeah, that's true.
I feel pretty good about that.
Contributing to the fight. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, To Catch a Predator, that's a great show, and what he's doing now is good work. He's, I will admit he's kind of becoming a little bit of a drama YouTuber now.
Yeah, of course. I haven't followed that much of his newer stuff. Man, I watched To Catch a Predator like religiously, and I have to say that was actually like some of the motivation for, there was a lot of things, but that was part of like realizing that anybody can do research and go on the internet and help expose these, literal monsters that live among us in society. Yep. It was like, man, this guy's doing this. Like, how hard is it to just, set up a YouTube channel and talk about some of this stuff that not a lot of people seem to know about? You know what I mean?
Right.
So another thing that people wanted me to ask you earlier, is there any chance at all of like a part 2 or 3, or are you done with this forever, or do you think maybe you could come back to it, after?
If there's enough interest, sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you
already been through the worst parts, right?
I really have, and the research is already done. I've already got my notes. I mean, I'd have to go back and reanalyze the case a little bit more to just kind of make sure I've got my facts right and get the timeline of events and stuff like that. But
right,
I mean, the trial part is not. The trial talks about the disturbing stuff, but the really graphic stuff was the stuff that happened before the trial, the actual crimes themselves.
Yeah.
So really, I think the trial video would just be kind of really gripping courtroom drama.
Which, man, I'm telling you, is with these cases like this, there's massive interest for that. I'm sure you saw the BTK courtroom deposition, right?
I've seen parts of it, but yeah, I know what you're talking about, where he's just deadpan talking about exactly what he did. No emotion.
She got sick, so I got a glass of water. I got her a glass of water and calmed her down. And that judge is like, "What happened next?" He's like, "Oh, I put a bag over her head and strangled her." And it's like, dude,
it's like
what?
It was like a Tuesday afternoon to him.
Yeah. It's like, but someone was telling me, I don't know if this is true or not, but someone was telling me a while ago, we were, I think we watched a BTK video on one of these late night live chats, and someone was saying that the videos of that deposition actually got more attention and views than any of the stuff about his crimes. Something like that. You know what I mean? So
it's probably the most palatable part of the case.
Yes, exactly. And people, there's so many people, and God bless them, I wish I was one of them, who are like, serial killer, torture, I'll skip that one. I'm not into that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, but they're like, oh, well, this is him in a courtroom. I know that I can stomach it. So then they'll check that out. Although they think they can. You get halfway through that thing and you're like, nope. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Like I've got a pretty hard palate. I can handle the BTK stuff. I can handle I can handle most
Dahmer
of it.
And yeah.
Dahmer is a tough one, but I can handle it, I guess.
Yeah.
The only one, real quick, one of the things I was trying to bring up earlier, one of the really difficult things about this case and what would make the trial video really hard to do is because this took place between 1999 and 2002.
Yeah.
There's very little footage available online. It made it really tough to come up with. That's why there's so much stock footage in the documentary.
Yeah. Oh man, you used it. You used it so well, though, man. That was one of the reasons why I said that thing earlier. Like, we're gonna see you on Netflix someday, because I mean, 90% of the YouTube channels out there, and I know you're friends with a lot of these people. I'm not gonna say anything disparaging about them, but there's a few really good channels that you'll see 10 straight minutes of stock footage. That's hyperbolic or exaggerating, but it's just so overused. You can kind of tell they didn't want to take the trouble to find a good,
It's just filler.
Right, just filler. And I mean, I don't, I got no complaints when someone finds stock footage that is relevant to what they're talking about. Like, there was one I really liked that he used in the video. I don't even know if it was stock footage, but about the catfish and you have the lake and stuff. Like,
No, that was
man,
stock footage.
that is done so well, though, man.
Yeah.
Like,
I was really hoping and praying I could find a kind of a feeding frenzy video of catfish.
Yeah.
Found that.
Yeah. Oh, it was done really well, man. Yeah.
What you bring up kind of an interesting point about kind of how a lot of other YouTubers are handling the true crime stuff. To me, what I feel like is missing in a lot of the true crime stuff that's on YouTube, and let me just preface this: I am not disparaging at all.
Right.
This guy is one of my favorite YouTubers, and I think he does a phenomenal job. So Mike from that chapter.
Oh yeah, dude.
He's an awesome guy. He's literally like one of the nicest people you could ever talk to. Like, he's been so nice to me and all that.
Oh, he's so likable too, man.
Oh,
13, 33, like,
right,
how can you not love that? It's like, oh man, this guy's great.
He's such a charming guy. And what really makes his videos great is that he's got kind of his own unique sense of humor that he kind of, sprinkles in here and there. Like,
big time.
He'll be talking about some dark stuff, but then he's like making like these little jokes and stuff, and it's almost kind of like a breath of fresh air to kind of give you a break.
And it's always done in like a respectful kind of way. You know what I mean? Like, he's not making jokes about something that you're like, oh God, dude, that's not funny. It's always like just enough off topic to, like you said, it's like a breath of fresh air. You're like, oh,
right.
Like,
but what I was gonna say though is what a lot of these true crime videos are that are out there though. It's kind of like a police brief where it's just listing the events, the dates, the people in kind of chronological order.
A lot of it, it's like they're reading it off Wikipedia sometimes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I'm new, I'm still learning, but I've always liked to tell stories.
Right.
And I absolutely
and paint
love,
a picture. Yeah.
Yes, and just latching on to a person. Like, I really feel like the audience needs something real and grounded to latch on to actually emotionally invest in the story to a point where they can care about it.
Yeah, that really shows in your work too, man. Because you can like put yourself there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like if you're telling, I mean, if you go back and watch the documentary or the other videos that I've done, it moves from story to story. It's person to person. It's talking about, like, what a person experienced, what they probably felt.
Yeah,
like,
and what they saw, what they heard, and
what they experienced.
Right.
Like, I try my best to put you in somebody's shoes, because my philosophy on it really is, if somebody actually feels something, whether it's positive or negative,
they're going to remember it.
Right. Not only are they going to remember it, and to back up what you're saying, people remember feelings a lot more than they remember
dates,
events,
names,
names, places, things like that. They remember feelings, and and when they remember an event or a place or a date or something like that, it's in conjunction with how they felt about that. I mean, the day you got married. The day your daughter was born, those are dates you remember because it's such an emotionally impactful time. Yeah. And what I was trying to bring up is that if I can get somebody to feel something when they're watching a piece of content, they really feel something, whether it's positive or negative, they have invested in me. Yeah. And so they take ownership in what they have consumed, even if they didn't have an input into it. It feels like it's a part of them. At least that's my hope.
Oh, man, 100%. And you really pulled it off with this video, I gotta say. Like, the portraits of these people, especially the victims, in my opinion, it's like you feel like you're there with them. You know what I mean? Like, you did an incredible job with that.
Well, listen, man, this has been a ton of fun. This ended up a lot more in depth than I really had anticipated. I figured maybe I'd get on and just talk a little bit about what the process was like, and maybe talk about a few things on here. But man, I wasn't expecting to get this far in depth.
We should do it again sometime, man. We'll pick a different topic or something. Like, that's what I love to do. That's what I love to do, and what I'm going to start doing more of when I get guests on is just kind of talk like we're just sitting around having a beer and not really try to be too goal oriented or have like a plan set up, you know. Just let it, you know, let the chips fall where they may, see where things go. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you got to get out of here, people are already telling me to ask you, have you seen the channel called Dead Bug Says?
I have not.
Wow, dude.
I'll check it out.
If you're interested in true crime, look up Dead Bug Says, and it comes with an obligatory warning. It's not for everybody. What does that mean? You might want to wait a little while. Well, not only is it super, super graphic about the details, and he'll cover famous cases that people know about, but they don't know the very dark specifics. Not only does he not shy away from going into that stuff, but he's controversial in other ways too. You know, he's very, to be nice, I would say he's not very PC, you know. He uses words like retard, you know, things that are not quite socially acceptable anymore. You have to see it for yourself. He does a voice like, God, what did I say? Did you ever see the movie Sin City, the first one? You know, Mickey Rourke's character? He's got a voice that kind of sounds like this. Like, he does this voice throughout all of his videos. But I'm telling you, all those negative things I said about him, it comes off so unbelievably well done. His editing is on another level.
I just subscribed to him right now. I'm looking at his channel trailer, and he's got some amazing editing on here right now.
Dude. Nikki will correct me if I'm wrong, because she's a huge fan, but I believe he used to work for a major network. I want to say Canada. I think he's Canadian. I'm not positive on that. But, man, his editing comes through. Like, that's the reason why I started watching him. And I'm like, damn, dude. Like,
well,
it's like layers upon layers. You showed me a
couple of people like Bandit Rats and...
oh, dude, isn't that guy awesome?
Yeah, Bandit Rants and what's the other one?
Mouthy Buddha, probably.
Mouthy Buddha.
Yeah,
that guy's good.
Yeah, a lot of those channels I only watch for their editing because it's like on another level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they got some good videos too. I don't get into all that stuff. You know, a lot of people talk about topics that I'm like, but if the editing is good, I'm like, whoa, I'm onto this. Yeah. Did you go to school? Or that's another thing I got to ask. Did you teach yourself how to do all this editing, or?
I got a little bit of experience the final year in my university studies. So believe it or not, I actually worked in broadcasting for a little bit. During my final year of school, I was a weekend broadcaster on not only like the school news station thing, whatever, but I did a couple of pieces on a local local ABC affiliate, KIFI, Local News 8 in Idaho Falls. And so my final year of school, you know, it's crazy. Actually, I was actually offered a 2-year contract to be a reporter for them, and they offered me $23,000 a year on a 2-year contract. And I had a wife, I had a kid, and I had another kid on the way. I couldn't.
Yeah, double it. We'll talk.
Yeah, Julie, it's dead bug is one word. Dead Bug Says.
Yeah.
And then during some of my earlier reporting work, I got a little bit of experience with Adobe Premiere, but really though, for the most part, everything I've done on this channel so far is completely just self-taught from the ground up. If you look at the very first video I did, the Zaza one, the Room 322, there's some pretty amateur stuff that I'm doing in there. And then as the videos keep going, like I spent quite a lot of time in YouTube tutorials. I would follow some really advanced tutorials.
Yeah.
That last little shot that I have at the end of each of my videos, that welcome to NightDocs where there's the smoke and that 3D effects.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube tutorial that kind of teaches you how to do that conceptually. And it's the guy that actually did the opening titles to Star Trek Into Darkness.
Whoa.
He has an After Effects YouTube channel, and he has some crazy good stuff. And I've learned a lot through just a few of his tutorials. I mean, I feel like I need to pay him. They're so in depth.
I'm checking that out for sure. What'd you say his name was?
Where
can I find him? I mean, you can text it to me or whatever, man. You don't got to look it up now.
I have no problem giving him a shout out either here. I just I'm just having trouble remembering it. I just want to make sure I got the right guy here. Oh, you know what? He's on my. I have a playlist of all of his stuff here, so let me pull that up here because he has just some really good stuff that I've pulled up to look at later. Video Copilot.
Video Copilot. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's like big Hollywood, you know. After
he knows
Effects
his stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he absolutely knows his stuff. But what makes him so good is, as advanced as he is, like he has some really advanced tutorials, but he's so thorough in his explanations that I like a complete amateur, I was able to follow along every step of the way and be able to copy every step that he did and add my own flavor that I wanted to add, obviously.
Yeah. Tweak it a little bit. Stuff. Right.
Yeah, and so like I was able to recreate everything that he was doing with my own assets, my own resources, and just create my own thing from the ground up instead of spending sometimes a couple $100s on some of these footage websites for these After Effects project effects, these templates that you can get. You know, you can learn to create your own, and he does such a good job. I mean, couldn't recommend him highly enough for anybody out there that's interested in doing content creation.
Yeah, I always like to promote that stuff because I, multiple times, sometimes on live streams and absolutely regularly, I encourage everybody to start their own channels, make their own videos, at least give it a shot, Because like I said, I went back and deleted like the first 30 videos I did because they just were not even in the same category,
Well, I'll tell you, I'm definitely the creative type. I'm always doing something creative. Like I've been a recording artist and musician since I was like 15. Like I've been writing my own music and releasing albums and stuff. And like, I mean, I feel like I'm pretty good.
Yeah, dude.
And with the music side of things, but it was mostly just for friends and family and stuff like that. Like I released an album on October 1st actually that I'd worked on for 3 years, and I was like, I finished this. I want to do something else now. And I was watching a Barely Sociable video, and I was like, and that kind of got me started on doing that Zaza video. And it was just kind of this thing that snowballed. And then I was like, holy crap, I think I've got kind of a knack for this.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
So I just kind of went in full bore, and I feel like I've got a pretty good knack for like branding and stuff like that. So I kind of came up with the name, the logo, the just kind of the theme, the tone I wanted to go for, and branded it as NightDocs, and I guess we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think it's going to be super interesting to see where you are for like a year from now. I mean, I think you got
what, man. Nexpo was telling me today. He was like, he asked me to pull up the documentary because he had a question about a part of the beginning or whatever, and he was looking at the views, and I'm looking at the views right now. I mean, I think it's like, I don't know, like 4,000 maybe. I don't know, but like,
yeah.
He was looking at that, and he was like, dude, for somebody as new as you, like, I mean, you're doing good, man.
Dude, you're doing really good, man. Trust me, you're doing really good.
Nexpo tells you that, like, I mean,
it means something.
Meant a lot to me. It really meant a lot to me,
dude. Man. I think anyone you showed that to would agree with his assessment on that. Trust me.
Like, I can't say enough nice things about like all these other YouTubers like yourself, and just like, it's like I just kind of showed up like I was the new kid on the block. I had nothing, like I hadn't proved myself, and it's like everybody's like just welcomed me in as like one of their own, and it's just like I really hope I'm in a position someday where I can kind of send the elevator back down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, man. I think, I'd say for a lot of us, we probably recognize that you're going to leave us in the dirt someday. So we want you to remember us when you get up there. You know what I mean?
I don't forget my friends.
Yeah,
man.
Cool. All right, man.
Dude, the fact that Nexpo's got like what, 1 million subs?
Right, that's what I'm saying, dude. He's massive. Yeah.
I think I hit like 2,700 today. I mean, what's he doing talking to me? Like,
right, dude, yeah.
So like, I wouldn't be too afraid that like, if whatever happens, if I end up getting bigger than I am right now or whatever, I mean, it's not like I'm still me. Like,
yeah, I hear you, man. Well, I think we've been going a couple hours now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna stick around for a minute and talk to everybody. You want to tell everybody again where to find you? I mean, Twitter or anywhere else? YouTube, obviously.
NightDocs is the channel name. Real easy to find. I know people have been linking it in the chat, and I can't thank you guys enough for all the love. And
I'll link it again, of course.
You guys have just been like all of you guys that have been here in the chat. I mean, I've always felt so welcome here, and you guys are just so nice to me. Like I don't feel like I deserve like how nice everybody's been to me.
Your content's just that good, man. Trust me.
Yeah. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's NightDocsYT on Twitter. My Twitter is a little silly. Like it's I post
mine too, man. Mine too.
Yeah, I post a lot of silly stuff on Twitter and everything, but it's kind of fun. But
yeah.
I'll have another video out hopefully in the next week or so. It's gonna be the Erota one, and
awesome.
That's it, man. So Kevin, man, I love you, dude. Thank you so much for letting me
back, bro. Thanks you so much for letting me play your video on here. That was amazing.
Like I really I get why you're careful about it, and like playing other people's content, but like I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I mean that's I'm all about it, really. I mean, anytime you ever want to play anything, I mean, consider it standing permission. So awesome,
man. I appreciate that, and of course, I appreciate you hanging out to talk with us about all this stuff, man.
Ton of fun, man. I really
we should definitely do it again, man. Whenever we both have time and we got something cool to talk about. It's fun just kind of shooting the breeze, kind of have a loose idea of what to get into, but I love just seeing where it goes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Cool.
Well, I'm gonna I'll leave you to do your own thing, do your own show. I'll probably hang out in the chat in a little bit. I'm gonna step outside for a little bit. I'm gonna grab a drink, and I'll come back to the chat in a little bit. So thank you guys so much for all the love. Really appreciate the time you've given me, Kevin, and all the support. And I don't deserve it, but I really appreciate it.
Oh, you deserve it, bro. And thank you, brother. I'll talk to you soon. I'm sure either on text or Twitter or someplace.
Yeah. Love you, man. And I love all of you guys that have been so nice to me in the comments. I'll talk to you guys soon.
You too, man. All right. Take care. Peace.